Hey guys, I am super excited here to be with my man Casey Lee from up in Vermont. And, Casey, thanks for taking some time to be with us today and talk a little bit about your business and your recent success. Why don't you give the network, I know most of the network knows who you are, but why don't you give a quick little background on your history in the industry and your history with Parisi?
Sure, yeah. Started training when I was in college. Got my now wife's roommate was the point guard of the basketball team. Started training him before season started when I was in college. He did really well. He actually outperformed everyone on their fitness testing, which led to the head coach offering me a position as a strength coach with the basketball team for 2 years while I wrapped up college. Really liked working with athletes. Was very lucky upon graduating that John Cirillo was making his way through Vermont at the Edge in Williston, kind of, scouting out a Parisi location, which conveniently was 10 minutes from where I lived. Luck of the draw, everything opened up right after graduation. So went from graduation on Saturday to Fairlawn on Sunday and literally went right into coaching. I started at 7 days a week coaching nothing really but Jumpstart and TP1 as kind of the baby of the location, and then just kept trying to, be better, do my job, however you want to say it, but went from assistant to program director to now program director. Was lucky to win Franchise Coach of the Year in 2014, and then was a master trainer with you guys as well. And now run the department by myself, program director. We just actually brought on a new coach yesterday. So there's now 4 coaches, Joe, Kyle, Shannon, and now John, as well as myself, so a staff of 5. And I think we quite literally are the best coaching staff in the state of Vermont. And I think we'll probably rival most of any staff throughout the country. I really firmly believe that.
Yeah, that's fabulous, Casey. And I will add to the network, Casey has had one of the fastest tracks and the youngest coach to become a master coach in the Parisi network. And it's amazing how you graduated on Saturday and started on Monday and jumped right in. Probably one of the fastest tracks. And you just took to it. And it was because of your tenacity to want to get better. Up to this day, you're running your own podcast, you're doing different things, you're out there in the community, you're building culture. Today we're going to really talk about how you really built this culture up in Vermont. You got a big organization, there's multiple clubs. You're sometimes, I think, limited with owner involvement, right? I know Mike, he's a great guy, but he's spread, right? He's got, I think it's 4 clubs.
It's 5 clubs that offer everything from preschool to there's a travel lacrosse club. There's a travel swim team that the Edge it owns and houses. There's a lot going on up here.
Yeah, a lot going on. So we know sometimes when owners are running in a lot of different directions, the program director really needs to take initiative in managing that step. Your culture, you had your best month last month in November. In the last 21 months, you really did a great job. Talk to us about the culture. Where was it and where is it now, and what did you do to change it?
Yeah, so I would never say that our culture was terrible. When I say culture, I mean like our facility, our training environment has always been pretty awesome. I think if you were to ask any of our kids who come train with us, they'd say it's pretty badass. It's a pretty cool environment. When 4 o'clock comes, the music's up. We've got all ages in there. But as far as employees go, and having been a coach on staff, and it just didn't feel authentic, I think is probably the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
And I can kind of be a loose cannon on the training floor as far as my personality. That's kind of what I bring to the table. And it was, for myself personally, I just really wanted to, when I took over the program in July, I really wanted to just bring the training environment that our kids have to the coaches as well, and really allow our coaches to authentically be themselves. And that was very important to me. That was actually the first big block item that I really wanted to address back in June, July, was building an environment where our coaches, and this is going to sound kind of weird, but were psychologically very safe to be themselves, and they didn't have to worry about judgment from anyone else on staff because we all clearly knew what our roles were, all the way up to just putting them in the best situations with training groups that allowed them to be themselves, if that makes sense. So they weren't feeling pressured if they were coaching college kids or if they were coaching large groups in more of a phys ed. We do some phys ed work with some private schools, and maybe they didn't feel comfortable in that, but really getting a feel to what the coaches wanted from their position and then kind of translating that into our day-to-day operations.
Right. No, that's really interesting. And I feel, the network, when you talk about the success of a Parisi Speed School, everyone's asking or seeking the silver bullet. What's the marketing strategy? How do we get more bodies in the door? How do we get more kids or more evals? Or how do we keep our kids longer? Or how do we overcome competition? Everyone's looking, what's that silver bullet? What's the best social media post? And I can tell you, in case you're here to validate, it's about your staff development, right? It's about the team and what you're doing with your team and how they're delivering those sessions. Talk to us about the strategies, the key strategies behind what you've done to really get people on board, being in this leadership role.
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest thing was I try to meet with each coach privately, in a pretty informal way. I mean, it's not like it's a scheduled meeting, but our coaches know that I'm going to try to grab them for 15 minutes to an hour to just have a private conversation with them each week. It can be as simple as going to get coffee, going to get lunch. Facility's empty. The two of us, there's two of us just sitting there. We're going to have a conversation about just them, us, the facility, what's going on, how they feeling, what struggles are they having, what do they want to do, what I can help them with, what I can do to get out of their way, on the flip side of that as well. And that's huge because I think communication has actually been kind of an area that I've always struggled with, and was able to really identify that as an area to improve on, and making sure that by having weekly kind of check-ins, and very informal check-ins, allows me to kind of know the pulse of each coach, where they're at. If they are struggling with something, we're able to address it very early on. It doesn't ever really get a chance to fester. That's something that learned from 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, which is a great book by Patrick Lencioni, No Water Cooler Talk. There's none of that. So we're able to really just kind of keep everyone, happy. And at the same time, they know if there's ever an issue, they can clearly bring it up and we can talk about it, whether it be in a group in a staff meeting or privately. And there's a great quote from a big role model of mine, Todd Bumgarner. He talks about killing the tigers in the bushes, and that's something that I tried to do for the coaches, is kind of these tigers that are lurking in the shadows that might cause harm to them, quote unquote, killing the tigers in the bushes and making sure those tigers go away so that they can be themselves and feel safe and again, deliver and focus on delivering the best client experience that they can. Because that's what it comes down to. When you work with kids, they're pretty quick to call bullshit on stuff that's not real. So making sure that our coaches are where they want to be, where they need to be. And I mean, we did have some coaches that weren't where they wanted to be and they left the facility, and that's totally fine. That's the other side of it, is knowing when to cut ties to people who aren't really in it to the vision of the company, and at the same time really giving the chance for those that are in it to really excel and shine and be a part of it to the extent that they want to be. And that's been huge for us.
Casey, so many good takeaways from there. I can't echo enough the one-on-one private meetings, lunch, coffee, getting them to get their guard down, to let them really tell you what they're feeling. I mean, you're such a great leader at such a young age. I mean, it's really uncommon for someone at your age to have such great leadership qualities and to have the confidence to pull someone aside, talk to them one-on-one, and get them to really share how they're feeling. And like you said, if they don't want to be there for whatever reason, they need to share that. People are so, I believe, hesitant in sharing their true feelings. And you got to get people to really do that. And I've seen you grow so much over the years, for you and your ability to share your feelings and how you're feeling about things. So phenomenal. Patrick Lencioni, huge fan, great book, 5 Dysfunctions, to the point where I was so excited about Lencioni, I got him to speak at IRSA 5 years ago.
Nice.
He was one of the keynotes that I actually called his office, and I arranged the whole hiring of him to be one of the keynotes at IRSA. But great book, a must read, and it's a very short read. You can get the audio. I think it's maybe an hour or two audio. It's a really short fable, which is really engaging. And I guarantee if all of our facilities read that book or listen to that audio, and you apply the principles and understand the 5 dysfunctions and how to attack them, there's not a doubt, and Casey, I'm sure you would agree, life-changing.
Yeah, it's huge. That book, as well as How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, those are probably two recommended reading books that I suggest for coaches. Or really, I mean, honestly, I think everyone in high school should probably read those. They're just really good books for dealing with people and working in groups.
I feel like I'm talking to myself in the mirror right now. No, seriously, everything you're saying, I've said for years, and to have someone like yourself say that, who's gone through it and who's done it and applying it and succeeding with it, it's better coming from you, because I think now people are really will take some action. So did you, like you said, did you get any kickback from team members? It's funny, you kind of did in a way where I guess when you talk to some people, they didn't feel they were right for the team and you moved them along. Talk to us about that. How difficult was that, and how'd that pan out? How did that help you?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I don't really get a lot of kickback as far as people not really wanting to do, because we attack things as a group. I like to think our staff meetings are conversations. It's not so much me telling people what we're going to do. It's me asking the other coaches on staff, hey, this is something that's going on, or this is and I'm very transparent with them. This is an email I get from a dad, or this is a conversation I had with a mom. What do you guys think we can do to remedy this? Or slight tweaks to our programming, or adding a second coach here when we need it, to, whatever it might be. I'm pretty transparent with that through the good stuff and the bad stuff. And like I tell them, for every, parent that tells us that something, is happening with their kid, or they need more, or whatever it might be, there's going to be a handful of people that are raving about a service that our coaches have provided. But as far as kickback goes, to really directly answer your question, I didn't really get a lot of kickback. When we made our changes to our facility in January, we had one of our coaches step out and leave, and we just decided to not really replace him. And that was a conversation we had with everyone on staff, was, okay, we had a person leave, and how do we feel about making up all those hours as a team? And we really were like, yeah, let's do it, because we were able to, with the size of our staff, we worked through the summer with just predominantly 3 coaches, myself and 2 others. And we were able to move pretty quick, because there's only 3 brains on the floor. You really got to navigate 3 personalities on the floor. And then that kind of put us in a position to have to hire a coach in early August. We hired Shannon Bouvier. She's was our newest coach until this week, when we hired John, our intern. And I think the biggest thing, rather than getting pushback, was how we hired Shannon and John to make sure that they would fit with what we were looking to do as a staff.
Mm-hmm. No, really, really impressive. What would you say to the network in closing here, wrapping up? How long did it take you to kind of make an impact in your culture, and how did that impact revenue? How long did it take to impact your revenue and profits?
Yeah, I like to think we operate on a 4-month delay, meaning right now we're really thinking about April. We're thinking about April and May. And when we took over in the summer, we were really thinking about fall, like September, October, November. And I think it's very easy to be reactive, especially in the summer when things can be great, and then all of a sudden August hits and fall sports start up and everything falls off a cliff and everyone freaks out. We knew that was coming. So for us, I mean, I think really it's 4 months, but as far as staff development goes and culture, I don't think there's a hard timeline. I don't think it can be a day. I don't think it could be up to a year. I think what really comes down is to having people, and this is something we've talked about, Bill, understand the why we want to act a certain way, why it's important we conduct ourselves. Is something as simple as making sure when a new face walks in through the doors who no one recognizes, even if they are a parent that we haven't met before, introducing yourself, just something as simple as that. And just what we kind of do, and we're slowly working on these as well, is a code of values, a code of just kind of how we conduct ourselves in the facility. You know, as far as like what it was funny, we do this exercise, and I did this with St. Michael's College, one of the schools that we work with. We're contracted at a Division II school. I went up to the whiteboard and I wrote a question. I said, "What do you look for in a good teammate?" You know, and I just put the marker down and I said, during the workout, just answer that question. Walk up there and write what you think you look for in a good teammate. And that's kind of sparked the idea of conducting these codes of values that we have as a staff for each other. You know, it can be as simple as if you're on the floor and you see something might not look right in someone else's group, you know, how do we approach that to the staff and holding each other accountable? And I mean, it takes time to get people to buy into that, but like I talked about with killing the tigers in the bushes and making sure we're able to deliver the best customer experience we can, that starts with staff development. It starts with making sure your staff is on point with what the core values of Parisi are, as well as the core values of the health club we're a part of, and then our own core values. I think if you ask, you know, our staff what they live for, what gets them out of bed, they'd be able to tell you. And I don't think that's really true for a lot of places. I don't think they really think about that or even understand why it's very important. And it is, you know, if you want to be your best, you got to understand, you know, why. And especially in today's world with, you know, the whole millennial craze and things like that. We're all millennials. You know, I'm the oldest person on staff. I'm 28 years old. We've got a 22, 24, and 25-year-old and 28-year-old. So we're very young. I think that's a competitive advantage for us. But at the same time, making sure we attack everything as a team is huge. And I think we move pretty fast, but I think we operate on a 4-month delay, you know, as far as implementing something today. I think we would really start to see it pay dividends in April.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just it.
Yep. Well, that's been great, Casey. I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing your insight on cultural development and what you've done and having your best month as a leader, as the program director, and the best month in the facility in 21 plus months. And it's been great. And you're up in Vermont and you're doing, you know, north of 20 grand, and, you know, you're making things happen up there. And you know, from San Diego to Vermont, I mean, you can't get much further than that than to China, which I was just in not too long ago. So we're all over spreading the wealth of inspiration, that's for sure. And you lead from the front by all means, and I'm so proud of you. Thank you for taking the time. I know the network really enjoys your energy and what you bring from a training perspective, but from a motivation perspective and really a communication perspective, because as you're one of the best communicators I know, and at the young age you are and how you're handling yourself and your team, a lot of people in our network can learn from you. So thanks again.
Yeah, if anyone ever has any questions, they can definitely reach out. Our facility number is 802-488-3278. And I would encourage you not to only talk to myself, but talk to our staff as well, because, I mean, they do it. They kick ass. It's a team effort up here. It's not just one person. It's all of us. It always will be.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Casey.